I've lived in Wagner just about 19 months now. Relocated here from Oregon, but previously originally from the Midwest. My affiliation with the city is I've just recently been appointed to what we call WEDA, which is the City of Wagner Economic Development Authority. So I'm a board member of that.
And when did the alarm bells, the red flags start dropping for you? Just in general?
Well, honestly, Bert, the first alarm bells kind of went off last summer during a rezoning near property I had purchased and moved here to be all of a sudden rezoned industrial heavy. So I started taking a look at that and how that happened. To make a long story short, I started to become more involved into the council meetings as well as economic development meetings, and started to notice a pattern of just non-accountability, secondarily followed up by just a lack of overall direction or attention to detail.
And you started to dig into...
So I started to dig into the finances of the city, and I'm a data scientist by trade. And one of the things I did was to understand what is the cost of normal from a departmental budget perspective. So that's very tricky when you talk about towns between, let's say, 8,000 and 10,000 population. But one of the normalities that you can find is typically how much are they spending on their library. And my research revealed that we are expending exorbitant amounts of money on our library. For instance, in excess of $440K was budgeted for this particular fiscal year that we're in for our library. To compare that to some of our cities would be like Muskogee, which has a great, fantastic library with 3D printers. They spend about $85K a year. We have Tahlequah that spends about $14,000 a year. So really, that kind of triggered a huge issue as far as being way out of what normal is. And then, just as any good citizen would, I took the time and went and asked the director some questions, and she couldn't really answer basic questions about budgeting. And she had mentioned that she works for somebody that is acting as the city administrator, which I knew didn't really hold that title. So I was trying to understand how a quasi-city administrator could be making budgetary decisions, personnel decisions for an area he has no legal authority upon.
And is that the contention that Dwayne does make those types of decisions?
Yes, sir. That is my understanding, and I have audio recordings revealing that he makes the budget decisions at the library, which is most unfortunate because he has no legal authority to be doing that.
And what is his job title?
My understanding, he has two roles within the city. The first is he is the director of WPWA, which is our utility segment of the city. And the second piece that he has is he's what we call the street superintendent, which by ordinance and definition makes him the city superintendent. But it does not give him those powers within those departments to make budgetary decisions, personnel decisions.
Are you saying he's exercising more authority than he has?
Yes, sir. That's exactly what I'm saying. And I'll give you an example just to drill down a little bit further, is that he actually took disciplinary action against our EMS director a couple of years ago. And I have documentation that he signed off that he was his direct supervisor. Well, that can't be based on the aldermanic form of government, the ordinances that have been deployed here, and essentially what the state investigator tells me.
Okay, let's back up because you just brought in form of government. What kind of government does Wagner have?
Wagner has what's defined as an aldermanic form of government. And that ultimately means that the CEO of the town is the mayor. He has ultimate budget authority, ultimate personnel authority, and everybody works for the mayor, no matter where you're at, unless you're an elected official.
And has Wagner been operating like that?
Wagner has not been operating like that. As far back as I can see, 1987, 1988, they continued to have what I would define as like a weak mayor, strong council form of government, which is a hybrid and it's not allowed. So what I did was I reached out to the state investigator to validate these points of information because, again, I'm not an attorney. I'm just a well-equipped resident.
This is the city or the state auditor?
The state auditor. That's right. His name is Mick Dodson, and he actually dug into it and come back and said yes. He said, I'm glad that you actually reached out to my office, Scott. I actually sent a letter regarding this back in December of 23, which really perplexed me as a citizen. If the council, the mayor, elected officials all received a letter from state investigators saying, hey, you guys are practicing the wrong form of government, and nobody did anything about it. That's very concerning. Second to that is, where is our city attorney? He has a fiduciary duty to do the right thing for the citizens here, and that's what I'm really concerned about, Burt, is our citizens, our children. I've noticed, I'm looking around other communities, they have a lot of things that Wagner does not. So one of the reasons I got involved in economic development is to try to drive that and to bring awareness into technology, potentially distributed ledger in areas where traditionally we're not really thinking about today.
You've written a letter to, well, let me back up. So the state auditor wrote a letter to who, explaining what?
Back in December, the state auditor wrote a letter essentially to members of our government. I believe it was the mayor, the elected officials, explaining that the mayor was the CEO and that everybody worked for the mayor. All the council members also received a copy of that letter. Now, again, pending public records requests on my own verification of that from the city, but Mick did provide the correspondence to that. And it, in fact, had been going on, the conversations back and forth with Dwayne to understand what his role was have been going on for over a year. And he was very evasive in how he would answer the questions. And ultimately, he did admit that mayor, I suppose the mayor has ultimately the power and runs the city, is what he ultimately said in an email back in December of 2023.
Now, since that letter was sent, has there been change?
No, sir, there's been no changes. So, as a follow-up to that, Mick sent a second letter 10 days ago, received on a Friday afternoon, this time addressed to all the directors and all the management folks, including the city attorney and anybody he could find on the City of Wagner website. Again, nothing has been changed on our website. If you go in and look, we still have a quasi-city administrator who's being listed, what his job duties are, which is just wrong. That title doesn't even exist. No, sir, it doesn't. So that brings me to my next point, which is you've had somebody that essentially has utilized this quasi-city administrator title to garner membership to other boards, i.e. GRTA, and other areas that would they have considered him for membership and potential leading of those committees or boards if he had been the city administrator? Well, I can't really answer that question, but the public should certainly be aware of that.
Now, is he to blame for that, or is the council from decades ago who appointed him?
In my opinion, it's a multifaceted failure, starting with the city attorney.
Okay. You've written a letter to the city attorney saying
I have.
you should resign?
I've asked for the city attorney to resign based on, number one, incompetence of the situation in his understanding of an aldermanic form of government. The second is his inability to communicate with the residents, the people of the council effectively. And the third is from an ethics position. How can you allow somebody like Dwayne to continue practice that quasi-city administrator role while at the same time disciplining employees that he has no legal authority over?
The city attorney, we reached out to him. I'll read you what he emailed.
Okay.
It is unfortunate that Mr. Yandel has such a low opinion of my abilities and performance as the attorney for the city of Wagner. My employment as city attorney for the last 25 plus years always been at the pleasure of the mayor and city council. If either wishes me to resign, I will do so. I will discuss Mr. Yandel's concerns with the mayor and president of the council and happily abide by their wishes.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. I mean, I think that my understanding is that Mr. Hicks been in the position for 27 plus years. He ought to have known better. He should have known how to run an aldermanic form of government. He should have known what the rules were surrounding that. More importantly, it's recently come to light in reviewing just old council meetings that he's improperly told our current mayor, Dalton, that he didn't have veto power. He's not understanding what the difference is between an ordinance versus a resolution. In fact, my understanding and working with Mick and other attorneys is that there's only two instances that a veto cannot happen from Dalton's perspective. The first is if he's already vetoed something, can't come around again for a second veto. And the other is if he doesn't take action by signing something that the council approved, he can't come back later and veto that. So I'm trying to understand how this has happened, how there still hasn't been ramifications, and here we sit 10 plus days later. OML's involved. They know that they've been practicing the wrong form of government. We need to see action. Our citizens deserve much better treatment, communication than what they're getting today.
I'm not gonna, but I mean, it's still just so shocking to me, the magnitude of what you're saying.
Yes, sir.
Is it still stunning to you?
It is actually shocking. So shocking that we've, talked to our senators that support us, our representatives that support us, all the way up to the governor's office. So we're looking forward to see resolution on this. We really want to help this town heal and move forward. I love this town. This town's an amazing town. They've been very welcome to me, and I know that people probably are a little bit confused when they hear what I'm saying, and then they go on the city website and there's city administrator. But I'm here to tell you, I have nothing to gain by doing this. I've been 100% transparent and truthful through this entire process.
In addition to the form of government, I mean, are there concerns that taxpayer dollars have not been spent in the wisest way?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And again, I'm not a forensic accountant, so all I can do is speculate on the things that I've found and identified using machine learning and AI. But I can tell you that the library costs, and there's other factors that are many magnitudes higher than they should be. And I want to make sure that our dollars are being spent wisely. One of the things that I thought was just insane was the fact that the people think that they don't work for the mayor. They don't think that they work for the people. They think that they work for Dwayne. They don't work for Dwayne. They work for the mayor. But ultimately, at the top of that org chart are the residents of Wagner. And one of the things I've asked for is just a simple org chart. That was almost 3 weeks ago, have yet to been produced. So I look forward to getting our arms around exactly what's been going on here and taking corrective action and making things better for our residents, because I think that we can do a lot better.
In doing what you're doing, you're rocking the boat. You're going to upset a lot of people. Are you worried about any possible repercussions?
Well, sure. I mean, you would have to be silly not to be worried about repercussions or blowback from something like this, but really I'm the kind of person, once I see something like this, I have to say something, I have to take action on it. I'm a very honorable person, and I want to make sure